Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this Saturday morning, and thanks for hosting, Nick. So the plan, the agenda for today, for this morning, is for about 45 minutes from 10 to 10:45. I will present on the process of accreditation, the standards of accreditation, and how CIHS is meeting those standards and the schedule. And then for about 15 minutes from 10:45 to 11, we have a special guest presenter, Joseph Subiando, who will give us a little bit of external perspective on CIHS's progress as a WASC expert, and give some insights, some suggestions of things that CIHS students and faculty, everybody on this meeting can do to help the process going forward. Then we'll have about 30 minutes, 11 to 11:30, for questions and answers. Okay, so I'll start right in. Now, so the process of accreditation is, there are four standards of accreditation, composed of 39 CFRs, criteria for review, and WASC, they assess the institution on every CFR, every criteria for review individually, and the four standards are assessed. The four standards, which are collections of those 39 CFRs, are assessed holistically, and the institution is accredited essentially on each standard individually. And where CIHS is in the process, how we've gotten here is, in 2018, there was SAV1, Seeking Accreditation Visit 1, where WASC sends their accreditation team to CIHS, and they assess CIHS on all those 39 standards, 39 criteria for review and four standards. And CIHS was granted by the commission. That's the way the process goes. The institution sends the accreditation report for the site visit 10 weeks in advance. Then the team comes out 10 weeks later, visits the institution, assesses on all the standards, writes a team report, and the team gives the report to the commission, the WSCUC commission, and the commission makes the final judgment. They almost always follow the recommendation of the team. So in 2018, after Seeking Accreditation Visit number 1, CIHS was granted candidacy on all four standards. And what candidacy basically means is that CIHS demonstrated that it understands what the standards are as an institution, and understands how to meet the standards. So that was pretty good for an institution to get candidacy on all four standards on the first site visit. Candidacy is not accreditation. It's a major step on the road to accreditation. Mac Powell, the team chair, the WASC team chair at the time, he told me that CIHS was borderline, was close to candidacy, and just made it on some of those standards. But we did get the status of candidacy on all four standards. And a little note on the relationship between the WASC team and the institution is important, because accreditation is also, it's a relationship between WASC and the university. And we're in a good situation on that, in that we are having, for the third time, for our SAV3 coming up, the same team, the same accreditation team with the same members, and the same chair, Mac Powell. And the other relationship there is with the WASC Vice President Liaison, Institutional Liaison, Ours was Dick Osborne for the first 2 meetings. It was very good. Now it's Sue Opp. Dick retired after a very distinguished career with WASC. Sue Opp is also very good. We have a great relationship with her as well. So on that was the 2018 SAV1. We got candidacy on all 4 standards. On the 2020 site visit, which was just, 10 months ago, 9 months ago, the 2020 site visit, CIHS was granted accredited status on 2 of the 4 standards. On 2 of the 4 standards granted accredited status and still candidate status on the other 2 of the 4 standards. The status of accreditation, of accredited on a standard, means that the WASC team and the commission assess that the university is actually implementing the standard at the level of accreditation. So remember, candidacy status means you demonstrate that you understand the standard. Accredited status means the institution is actually implementing the standard substantially. So that was really good news and great progress. So for the site visit coming up, the instructions are, and what we need to do, what CIHS needs to do, is demonstrate only this time the remaining the remaining 2 standards that are at the level of candidacy. And specifically, I can share screen here. Specifically, this SAV3 will focus only on the specific areas of concern. Basically, 12 of the 39 criteria for review that the team and the commission noted that CIHS still needs to work on. So this site visit will focus only on those 2 standards and only those 12 criteria for review within those 2 standards. And the WASC gave us specific directions on each of those. So it's very focused this time. It's very focused and very clear. And they're also on the report template. We just sent the report in yesterday. We've been developing it, developing the report and everything that CIHS needs to do to address the things that the accreditors said we need to address. We've been doing that really since the last site visit, which was March. Since last March, we've been meeting twice per week on this as an administrative team, and doing 2 things, really. Implementing what needs to be implemented to be actually functioning at the accredited level on these standards, and developing the report and the evidence that demonstrates that we are implementing at that level. And so all the specifics are there, and the specific aspects of those 12 criteria for review are there and actually on the report template. So you can still see them. And I copied the report narrative to the faculty yesterday and the board and the student senate leaders, the current and former student senate leaders. So each criteria for review is stated there, what CIHS needs to do on each criteria is stated, and then in the report, how CIHS is actually meeting those criteria is also stated. So that WASC now has that report, and the same team will read it. It's available to them to read now. And then a few weeks before the site visit, which is May 6th, it's only a one-day site visit this time because it is so focused. A few weeks before the site visit, I'll get news from the team chair if they have any preliminary input from the report, and then at the site visit they'll assess CIHS based on the report, and then at the next commission meeting after the site visit in June, the commission meeting in June, the commission will make its actual determination in a commission action letter based on the WASC team's recommendation. So all the specifics are there in the report. One way to get your arms around the big picture of what we're doing in the report and what the focus of the remaining 12 CFRs and the remaining 2 standards is to look at this chart. So this is just one page and one of the evidence attachments to the report. But this gives you a sort of a big picture overview of what this site visit is focusing on. And what this is here, if you can see the screen, is a map of learning outcomes at CIHS, and curriculum map at CIHS, and how the curriculum maps and how they all fit together, and how the assessment cycle works, because that is really the key. If there's one key phrase that the WASC team and the commission noted that CIHS needs to do to demonstrate these last aspects for accreditation, is closing the loop. Closing the loop. Okay, closing the loop on what? Closing the loop on cycles of assessment, quality improvement, and actually implementing the quality improvements into the programs, and then assessing them again. Because accreditation is really about a continuous quality improvement cycle. The university can demonstrate that it does implement a continuous quality improvement cycle that addresses all the standards in the CFRs. That's the key to getting accredited. So this diagram gives you a kind of a big picture sense of how that works. So you have the CIHS mission principles at the top level. The founder of CIHS, Dr. Motoyama, developed 8 wonderful principles that CIHS is to operate by, and those basically form the mission of CIHS. And from those 8 principles, we have the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes for CIHS, they're also on this document. And those are actually linked in this document. And this has been distributed to the community like over a year ago at that level. The learning outcomes linked to the mission principles. Then each program has its own set of learning outcomes. And the program learning outcomes are linked to the institutional learning outcomes. And then each program also has a curriculum map. And the curriculum map maps out where in the courses the program learning outcomes are addressed, and at what level of development they're addressed. And the courses then have course learning outcomes. And the course learning outcomes have assessment rubrics in the courses. And the program capstone projects, the dissertation for the doctorate degree and the master's thesis for the master's degree, have assessment rubrics that are used to assess the final product. And the completion of these maps and the linking together of them and the assessment of the programs based on these maps and the formal assessment, it's called a program review, are the things that WASC pointed out that CIHS needs to demonstrate that we're doing for accreditation. And that's what we've done. I've diagrammed with the black oval here what a program review is. Programming review is assessing that part of the map for a particular program through the curriculum map and the course syllabi and course learning outcomes and how all of those are assessed with rubrics that are applied at each level. And these elements of these were not fully present at CIHS at the time of SAV2. We had, CIHS had program learning outcomes generally. They weren't fully, let's see, I'm host. Okay, somebody just joined. They weren't fully differentiated, doctoral and master's level. We did have them, CIHS did have them. CIHS had curriculum maps, but not as fully developed as they needed to be. And courses had course learning outcomes, but there weren't as formal assessment rubrics as there needed to be. And now there are. And students who are very active in courses, especially beginning level students, should be experiencing that now in a different way, and in a different way than they were a year ago or more. And that is that cycle of assessment improvement based on evidence and curriculum maps is the key. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to bring up another diagram, another document. Here's a diagram of the assessment cycle and quality improvement. And basically, you look at the CFRs as unpacking this diagram and helping us, showing us, okay, in each of these steps, this is what the institution needs to do, and to do this, and you put the systems in place. You have evidence that you have the systems in place. You use the evidence in the formal program reviews, which are entire documents in themselves, which are subparts of which are attachments to this SAV3 report. And that's the assessment cycle that we are demonstrating now, and that any university needs to demonstrate to be accredited. And this focus on assessment and evidence-based assessment, program learning outcomes assessment has evolved in recent decades in accreditation. And WASC is really kind of one of the leaders nationally. You know, WASC is a regional accreditor, uh, uh, which is the top level in the United States versus is rather than national accreditation. And as a regional accreditor, I think WASC is kind of a leader in this area. And that's good for CIHS. But it means that if you're getting initially accredited now versus maybe 20 or 30 years ago, it's different now. It's more specific around assessment and assessment evidence and learning outcomes and learning outcomes assessment, which is a good thing. So back to the high level, there are also three core commitments that WASC calls universities to commit to, and CIHS has really committed to those. And since CIHS started the cycle, the assessment, the accreditation process before 2018, and those core commitments are commitment to student learning and success, commitment to quality and improvement, commitment to institutional integrity, sustainability, and accountability. And then the four standards really flow from those. And so I'd like to take a little look at the standards themselves. Which gives us a better sense of what CIHS is focusing on right now and what CIHS was assessed at accreditation level on standards 1 and 3 last year. This is a standards at a glance document. This document is publicly available on the wcuc.org website. I encourage anybody who's interested in the details of accreditation to go to wcuc.org, and they have many publicly available documents there, including public documents specific to the institutions. Like you can see published on the WASC website, CIHS's Commission Action Letter, CIHS's WASC SAV2 team report, and the previous Commission Action Letter and Commission WASC team report. Those are all publicly available, published documents, and that's what also says this is what CIHS needs to demonstrate at SAV3. And then our report, which we uploaded yesterday, describes how, in detail, how CIHS is doing what the accreditors said we needed to do. So standard 1, defining institutional purposes and ensuring educational objectives. Remember, the standard 1 is one of the standards that CIHS was assessed at accreditation level already, so we're not focusing on that this time. And that's a really good thing. Well, it's a really positive thing that standard 1 and standard 3 were the first two standards that the CIHS got to accredited level at. So standard 1 includes things like the mission of CIHS, the founders' missions, the principles, the unique aspects of CIHS's educational content. This demonstrates that WASC actually likes that. So the accreditation process now, the parts that CIHS has to demonstrate improvement on, we have demonstrated improvement on, is about the systems of quality improvement and the systems of assessment and the quality improvement cycle, having those systems in place. The WASC isn't saying we have to change any of our educational content or educational mission, even the unique and distinctive aspects of CIHS's educational mission. WASC likes that. They like innovation in the content, and as accreditors, they're not about the content of what we teach as an institution. They're about the process of continuous quality improvement, and that we have evidence-based assessment, that we assess that we do what we say we're doing as an institution. Then standard 3 is the other one that was assessed at SAB2 at the level of initial accreditation. Standard 3, developing and applying resources and organizational structures to ensure quality and sustainability. So it's kind of rare that a very small institution like CIHS would meet standard 3 as one of the first standards, because that's often one of the hardest standards for a very small institution to meet, because it's about financial sustainability largely, and financial processes. So it's very good that CIHS is not needing to focus on standard 3. This site visit that was covered in SAB2. So standard 2 is achieving educational objectives through core functions. This standard 2 is about the assessment of, well, it's about first having in place the core aspects of an educational program, having in place the learning outcomes and the curriculum maps and the faculty and the programs, like it says here, programs appropriate in content, standards, degree level, sufficiently qualified faculty. So that's the kind of structured part of that map diagram I was showing earlier. That's demonstrating that the university has that structure, those structures in place. And there's also key aspects of that the institution has scholarship and creative activity in place, and the institution tracks student learning and success, gathers evidence on all the assessment evidence on student learning progress and student learning success. That the institution is tracking, gathering that evidence, has the systems in place to do that kind of tracking and evidence gathering. Then standard 4 is creating an organization committed to quality assurance, institutional learning and improvement. And standard 4 is really about closing the loop, the phrase I used before, closing the loop on the continuous quality improvement cycle, and having systems in place demonstrating that you do close the loop, and that you are a learning institution, a learning and constantly improving institution, because remember, accreditation is really about continual quality improvement. So those are the standards at a glance. And let's go back and take a look at the specific directions from WASC. So this is unpacking and going into the specifics a little bit in my remaining 10 minutes. So these are comments that our WASC liaison, the vice president, gathered for us, and the WASC team emphasized in their WASC SAV2 team report. And this is essentially what our SAV3 report that we submitted yesterday demonstrates in detail with about 40 attached evidence documents that we're doing. Let's just take a look at these. So, develop a faculty-driven process for establishing appropriate standards for student performance and curriculum development and oversight to include establishment of appropriate summative assignments, creation of well-developed rubrics, and alignment of course and program level learning outcomes. So in the CFR narratives and the attached documents, and I think a lot of faculty and students have been experiencing a lot of this activity. Rubrics actually apply, rubrics to assess, rubrics to be used in assessing student work in courses, and in the recent thesis completions and dissertation completions, rubrics applied to assess the thesis or the dissertation, the capstone project, according to the program learning outcomes. And the Faculty Senate has been wonderfully active overseeing this, really, with the assistance of our Director of Outcomes Assessment and Institutional Research, or Director of Outcomes Assessment, Wanda Nitsch, who took another university through, Health Sciences University, through initial accreditation. We're very lucky to have her as our current Director of Outcomes Assessment in the interim in this process. And the Faculty Senate has created a curriculum committee and now a quality, it's something like a quality improvement committee, and is now really instrumental in this process. And in the question and answer period, I see that some of the leaders of the Faculty Senate are here today, and that is great. Maybe they can talk a little bit more to this. So number 2 there, assess student learning at or near graduation in order to establish the extent to which graduates achieve the expected student learning outcomes at expected levels of proficiency. Well, those are now addressed. This is now addressed in part by the capstone project assessment rubrics that I described, but also a PLO assessment project has been completed for every program learning outcome, and that PLO assessment project is designed by our Director of Outcomes Assessment, Wanda Nitsch, who is a graduate of something called the Assessment Leadership Academy, which is a WASC program. It's sort of like a master's or doctoral degree in assessment that you get by going through this extensive academy that WASC has. So our program learning outcomes assessments projects, they're all linked now to that WASC report, so you can see them there, are state of the art. So that's number 2 there. Number 3, fully implement the program review process. The program review process. Program review process is that oval-shaped part of the chart that I like maps, and so on the diagram that I was showing earlier. But it's a formal process where there's several steps in the program review. We have a program review manual that we follow for each program review, and that's all written up in the program reviews, which are attached to the WASC report. Implement the program review process and ensure that program review includes the assessment of student achievement of all program learning outcomes. So the program learning outcomes for the program, as well as retention, graduation rates, board pass rates, and an external review component. So our program reviews now do this. And they even include an external review. Somebody external to CIHS is hired to do their review of our program review after the program director has completed it and sent it to them. Okay, number 4, collect and analyze both aggregated and disaggregated data and develop reports related to student academic progress and achievement in order to demonstrate the extent to which students are successful, programs are meeting student support needs, and quality assurance processes are occurring. This is largely around the student, the first part of this is largely around the student information system called Populi. At the time of SAV2, CIHS was starting to implement our student information system, Populi. Actually, the WASC team mentioned Populi specifically because they could see that we were working on it, and it's a really important aspect of keeping accurate records and actually being able to use the accurate records for these, for helping students through the process of their degrees, but also for gathering evidence and gathering data and being able to assess the programs and at both granular level, disaggregated data, and the whole program, whole institute level aggregated data. Okay, and the last bit there, and quality assurance processes are occurring. So first step on this number 4 is getting the student information system in place and actually working, getting the student records into there, and getting the functionality of it working. A big thank you to our director of, our Dean of Admissions and Enrollment Planning, Joel Pilko, who's really overseeing this, and Hideki Baba, who's implementing this. That's the first part of it. And then the last part is quality assurance processes are occurring. So using that data in the program reviews and in the constant continual quality improvement process and cycle. Number 5, establish a process for new program development. Establish a process for new program development. That is if CIHS is going to implement a new program, I can't just say, hey, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to start a law school, and that's it. You have to have a whole process where multiple groups are involved, and the faculty is involved, the Institutional Effectiveness Committee is involved, and then the academic committee of the board is involved, and finally the whole board signs off on it. And actually, CIHS now has that process, policy, procedure in place, and we're using it for the concentration in yoga therapy within the integral health degree. The concentration in yoga therapy, which is a partnership with the Soul of Yoga, where entrants will get students who complete the dual program, joint between CIHS and Soul of Yoga, will get a IAYT, International Association of Yoga Therapy credential through the Soul of Yoga part of the program, and a master's degree through the CIHS part of the dual programs. That is a development, and the write-up of that, and this process of proving it has been going on for over a year, like a year and a half, and it's right now in the WASC substantive change step, and soon we'll get approval there, and then we'll take it to the academic committee of the board and then the full board, and we hope to be able to be accepting students into that like within a quarter or two. Number 6, collect and analyze data, reflecting the systematic assessment of teaching and learning and the campus environment, and integrate this in the quality assurance process. You see, many of these points, they end up with implementing the quality assurance process. So that's really key to understanding what CIHS is demonstrating and what WASC is going to be looking for at this next site visit. Number 7, further develop the support for faculty inquiry and training around scholarship, teaching, and learning, with an emphasis on assessment of student learning, pedagogy, and curricular development. This is this starts with CFRs 2.8 and CFR 2.9, which are about having faculty in place who do scholarship, and CIHS passed CFRs 2.8 and 2.9 at the last site visit. They don't need to be revisited again, but then the implementation into the quality improvement process is CFR 4.4, like it says there, which is still on the docket, needs to be addressed, and CIHS is addressing that wonderfully, and this is really key to addressing this is key to part of the role of the new role of Dean of Integral Education that CIHS now has. That's going to be developing a integral education scholarship of teaching and learning center at CIHS to really lead in this effort and not only meet this CFR, but become an exemplar of this process in an integral way. So we're really excited about that one. Number 8, ensure the process of assessment of institutional effectiveness formally includes appropriate stakeholders such as board members, staff, faculty, students, and community members. That's really key, multiple stakeholders. And CIHS in the past couple of years has really improved a lot on this. We have a really functioning faculty senate with actually committees of the faculty senate that do specific functional areas around this. And we have a wonderful student advisory senate. The first co-leaders were wonderful on that. And then we have new co-leaders of the Student Advisory Senate, and their interaction with and involvement with the Institutional Effectiveness Committee and back and forth is really an important part of this. Community members, meetings like this also add to the multiple stakeholders. And then number 9 is also about include multiple stakeholders in the development of strategic plans based on data and evidence. So we have an updated institutional effectiveness plan. I just showed you little bits of it at the start of this talk. And the multiple stakeholders that I just described in number 8, them being involved in this, and we faculty and staff know that at the start of the current budget cycle, we more actively include now departments' functional areas in proposing to the CFO, and we have a CFO now, aspects that are then folded into the actual budget plan. And we have a plan to improve that connection with the budget planning and the five-year plan for CIHS more extensively in the next budget cycle, which is coming up in the summer. So that's a quick overview of that. I've exhausted my 45 minutes, so I'll introduce Joe Subiando for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have question and answer. Joe Subiando is extremely well qualified to be presenting to us about accreditation and CIHS's progress toward accreditation. He's been accreditation team member on, I think, something of close to 30 accreditation team visits to other universities. And he's been a president of a major university in California, which is close to CIHS in Mission. And he was, before that, I believe he was president of the American Council of Deans, even when he was dean at another prestigious university. And he's been an advisor, formal advisor to CIHS administration and CIHS board for about 3 years. Really wonderful advisor, and he's called Advisor for Strategic Growth, and also for accreditation processes. So, Joe, are you here with us?
You're muted, Joe. Let me.
There he is.
Yeah.
I'm stop screen sharing there.
Good. Yes. Thank you very much, Thomas. And good morning, everyone. And delighted to be here. I've been always very taken by the mission and vision of CIHS, and that's why I have been volunteering my time and working with Thomas and the team in really bringing the institution along in terms of accreditation. And I have to say that from where we first started this, and I was working early on with Thomas, the institution has really come quite a way. And that's a real tribute to everyone, the faculty, the students, the administrators, the trustees. Everyone has really given it its very best effort. And as you go through the report, it shows that. It's substantial. There have been many, many things that have been done. And I would say that the institution at this point is poised to be accredited. It's coming into its final phase. Let me just tell you a bit about what will happen on the visit, and especially regarding faculty and students. Bear in mind that the visiting team is made up of faculty and administrators at other institutions. So they're very familiar with higher education. They also do it on a voluntary basis, and they do it because they care about accreditation. And my having been on over 30 visits and various types of institutions, and I've really gotten to see certain things that you can almost expect will happen on a visit. First off, the team will decide in reading the report with whom they wish to meet. And I would assume that they will want to meet with students and they will want to meet with faculty. But it's a one-day visit, and it's quite possible that they might want to meet only with some faculty or some students. So that really is up to the team to call in terms of what they wish to do. I think it's really important, as it was in the past visits, the team always came, in the last 2 visits, the teams came away with a very positive sense of CIHS faculty and students. And that's because they were enthusiastic as they were talking about the institution. Bear in mind that every team, when it comes to an institution, realize it's taking a snapshot. This is the institution is at this moment. And in terms of faculty and students, there are always going to be faculty and student issues. Just the nature of higher education precludes that all faculty are happy and all students are happy. It's just not the nature of the institution. There are differences of opinion, there are issues, and so teams fully expect that and aware of that. What they'll be looking at, and as they look at the institution, they're not looking for perfection, but they're looking for an institution that is clearly a work in progress. And CIHS is very much that. It has a past, it has a present, and it has I think, a very exciting future. It's still, and I think this comes out very definitely in the report, it's evolving, it's growing, it's put into place new processes to deal with faculty issues, to deal with student issues, to deal with finance, to deal with fundraising, to deal with all of the complexity that goes on. And when teams visit, what they really expect is candor. The last thing that a team would want to believe is that faculty or students were somehow rehearsed about what they were to say, and that would never be the case at CIHS. It's really just natural what faculty and students think about the institution, and people will ask questions, and so it's definitely a free-for-all. And I have done this when I have done visits, and a kind of a classic thing that often visiting teams will do. They may even lead with that, and they might say, well, if you had a magic wand, what is it that you would change? And so there is that assumption that an institution is in a state of growing and in a state of change, and how it is dealing with its issues and moving on through them is very important. In terms of when the team is looking at various aspects, it will want faculty, if they have a meeting with the faculty, to just be with the faculty. And they won't want administrators there because they, again, want to get at that candor. If they have a meeting with students, they will want just students to be there, and then they won't want faculty. If there are people that are both faculty and students, then probably they wouldn't be attending the meetings. And if there are faculty who are faculty and administrators at the same time, they wouldn't be attending the faculty meetings. But it's the institution, as I say, is poised, and so it's not in a place that anyone has to be worried or concerned that somehow they could say something, or something could be talked about that would somehow veer it off its course for accreditation. Everything is in a good place, and the institution should feel very confident. Thomas's leadership has been extraordinary in terms of moving the process along, and he's been, as the whole team has been, very diligent in mapping out the details of its case for accreditation. And it's a solid case, and each step has been even better as the institution has moved along. Each visit has shown the institution to be better. And I think from my point of view, I would say that the institution can confidently expect that this could be the final visit and it could be accredited. I don't think that would be a stretch. So in fact, I think that would be a realistic outcome. So let me just stop there, and then let's open it for any questions or concerns that people might have.
Thanks so much, Joe. Yeah, questions, anybody?
Oh, Bill,
Bill Murphy.
I see your hand.
So, if for the WASC committee decides that that CIHS is not ready to be accredited at this time, is there like an appeal process, or is there like another step that would be taken after this third visit?
It would be another site visit.
Okay,
But to answer your question too, Bill, about an appeal process, of course, an institution is always free to appeal, but it would also, even in its recommendation, it would list details about what it is that the institution needs to do, just like they did in the last visit. So it's not just, oh, you didn't make it. No, these are very specifically the reasons.
thank you.
It looks like Julie has her hand up.
Yes, I do. Hi. Thank you for the great presentation, and thank you, Joe, so much for all you've been doing. It's been 5 years now that I've been with CIHS as a student and now adjunct faculty, and it's what a journey it's been. I read through the report the other night, and having been at the previous 2 visits, I was really astounded at the depth and the breadth of the work that went into this report. I think, Joe, because you've seen us from the outside and now you're kind of inside at this point where we're poised. And I'm just so grateful to be part of this community. And I thank the administration so much for their strong support and leadership. As it relates to the Faculty Senate, I wanted to note that there was such good work done on curriculum development and reviewing the programs. And Thomas, you had asked about the quality assurance. So I just wanted to make a short comment about that. We saw that there were things that we needed to do. So we stood up a interim quality assurance committee to make sure that the faculty was doing all they could to support the process towards this report and this visit. What we found was that quality assurance is an integrated component and needs to be an integrated component of all that we do. And it's a major component of the curriculum committee. So we don't need to have additional committees to have committees, but what we are is we're committed to looking at quality assurance, taking that assessment cycle that you showed us, and then ensuring that we have quality assurance throughout that cycle. And the final comment, as it relates to the SAV3 visit, I think in May, whatever the date is that we're working with faculty and ourselves to make sure that we're comfortable with the terminology of the cycle, that we can talk about how we're excited and we're committed to quality assurance and what we're doing to support that. So I think that now our work, we have 2 more Faculty Senate committee meetings before the visit. We'll be focusing on, are we comfortable with this? Where are the things that we can identify, as Joe said, that candor of, if we had a one, what could we do? And I think I could tell you, I won't today, but I could tell the visit committee at least 3 things that builds on the strength of where we are rather than highlighting the gaps of where we were. Over.
Thanks, Julie, and thank you for your leadership of that Quality Improvement Faculty Senate Committee. It's really important and great work.
We have a question in the chat. Thank you, Vika. The question is, I am wondering how CIHS is planning to support clinical psychology students in finding practicums and pre-doctoral internships. Is this something WASC is looking for? This type of student degree support is important for clinical psychology degree students. So maybe, Thomas, you can kind of, you can address how a question like that is situated within CFRs and program reviews and that sort of thing.
I think the process of helping with internship practicums was discussed in the psychology program review, and it is part of the program, the psychology program review. WASC is interested in seeing that the institution does everything appropriate to help, especially licensure program like clinical psychology licensure students through the process as appropriate for a program in the particular licensure. As far as particular steps for helping the practicum, that would be a question for the psychology program director. But as far as supporting the process and keeping track of what the psychology program is doing in that regard is definitely part of the WASC application. And I don't know, Nick, as a psychology program psychology faculty, maybe you can talk. I don't know how much time we want to spend on this level of specificity.
Sure. Well, just to, like essentially just kind of reiterating what you're saying, that a specific kind of granular programming question that is kind of subsumed like within the bigger picture of the psychology program review, which is a big part of what WASC is looking for in terms of how we're self-assessing, kind of how we're doing these very specific self-study assessments for the programs. So that's integral health, psychology, and comparative religion and philosophy. So that specific question is within the context of the larger psychology program review, where it's absolutely addressed, and so there's plans and kind of areas of growth that are identified, and that sort of thing. Like again, the specific steps of kind of getting there is kind of beyond what WASC is looking for. They need to know that we're looking at it and that we have plans for kind of improving, all the areas within the specific programs, or like within the areas that we self-assess as needing improvement. And it looks like Dr. Mihara has responded as well, saying that programs know of local sites and make recommendations for the student is similar to applying for a job. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that really is kind of more so a granular question. And so I'm sure within a different context, Dr. Mihara has more thoughts, specific thoughts about how we're growing in that area. Any other questions?
Julie's hand is still up.
Oh.
I guess I should have put it down. I was going to type something, and that was to say, I think Vika's question and concern and need is part of a larger issue, and that is, what types of student services do we have for graduating students, and what types of recommendations do we need from the faculty and from the SAS to administration in terms of staffing and larger programs to support the long-term efforts of students who graduate from CIHS. Over.
Okay. The site visit is, it's a remote site visit this time. It's May 6th. Mm-hmm. So we'll be scheduling the actual time of day of the interviews on that day. So please keep your calendars open for that day if you can.
Oh, Dr. Brophy, we have one more question that just came in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, it is from Kelly. Is the large program structure change that Dr. Asbjorn Hargens has been proposing not considered a significant change, or I think what Kelly means is substantive change? And should this not wait until after the accreditation is approved and finalized before implementing? That's a good question. So the idea of kind of where we're going in terms of the vision of integral education, kind of, is that substantive change according to WASC?
Oh, hi, Kelly. I saw that you came into the meeting recently. I don't know if you saw the part where one of the specific items that the WASC team told us after SAV2 that CIHS needs to demonstrate is a process for new program approval, an internal process within CIHS, where multiple constituencies are involved in developing any proposal for new programs or major changes to programs, and that the multiple constituencies are involved, and most stakeholders are involved internally within CIHS, and after there's a consensus developed, or after the whole process, internal process that involves multiple groups is done, and an actual proposal for new programs or changes in programs, then it's brought internally to CIHS's academic committee of the board, and then to CIHS, and then the academic committee of the board brings it to the whole board. And then at that point, if CIHS decides to make a new program or a major change to a program, at that point, we have a whole written plan, and CIHS sends that to what's called the substantive change process at WASC. And they determine whether or not it needs to go through the substantive change review. So that, I hope that gives you a sense of the process of how changes, how substantive major changes in programs are done. And so Sean Esbrun-Huggins, as Dean of Indigo Education and as Indigo Health Program Director, the expansions and new concentrations that he is developing a proposal for, that's all still in the first step of this process. He's having meetings with groups discussing ideas and working on a proposal that will be developed. And then when the proposal is developed, after multiple constituencies' input and dialogue and discussion, the proposals are presented by the Institution Effectiveness Committee to the Academic Committee of the Board, and then it's submitted to substantive change at WASC if it's needed to be. A minor change to a program, like adding a new course, adding a small set of new courses, doesn't need to go through substantive change at WASC. A major change, like a whole entire new degree, does need to go through substantive change at WASC. Something like adding a new concentration within a degree, like the yoga therapy concentration that we're working on right now, is in a gray area, and for that, it's a good idea to ask our WASC person, Suap, and the substantive change manager at WASC if it needs to go through a substantive change. Does that address the question? Oh yeah, no, it will not delay accreditation. I can say that.
Okay, looks like we have another question, hand up, Federico.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm from my phone, so okay, you can hear me. Yes, I just wanted to follow up on Kelly's question, because in the past weeks, as integral health students, we've been in contact with one another and also with the administration about the change in vision for the program. So my question is the following. Was it CIHS that actually decided to expand and reshape the vision for the program, or was it something that actually WASC asked? Because when I was looking at Thomas, when Thomas was doing the presentation, there was actually a big red circle on the integral health program. So I was wondering if this is something that CIHS is working on because WASC told them, or is it something that actually they decided as an administration? And the second thing is that Kelly asked if this would delay accreditation, and Thomas said no. But like my question is, should the integral health program or new program with the new name and new vision be ready before May, or can it be like a work in progress that can actually be happening even after the school is accredited? Is there like some steps that need to be done to reshape the program before the May visit? Okay, I will mute myself now. Thank you.
Hi, Federico. Thanks for your question. Okay, I'm going to share screen a bit. Yeah, you mentioned this diagram. Yeah, I hope I didn't confuse anybody. I put the big black circle there to demonstrate the area that any program review focuses on. It so happened that I happened to put it on the circle on the integral health program, but the circle could have been on the psychology program or the comparative religion and philosophy program. This was just to demonstrate what a program review, a formal program review looks like. It's not a red circle that was put on the integral health program. And the process for substantive change, major change in any program is as I just described in response to Kelly's question, and the ideas for changing, not for changing, but actually there are ideas for expanding and improving the integral health and comparative religion and philosophy programs, and integrating them all into a integrated vision, an improved and clarified and more forefront integrated vision for CIHS as a whole. That's including the psychology program. That vision, for one thing, it's still being discussed. It's still being developed. It hasn't been. It's not to the step where it is to the academic committee of the board yet, and it's only after that it will be presented to WASC. And absolutely, the program improvement process and the program improvement ideas and vision that our Dean of Integral Education is talking about absolutely come from CIHS. WASC doesn't even, WASC is not generating anything like that. And as I described, CIHS has passed Standard 1 at the level of accreditation. Standard 1 is about the content of CIHS's educational mission. And so WASC is not tinkering with that. All WASC wants to see is that CIHS has an internal process for making any changes or improvements that CIHS follows, and that CIHS follows the WASC substantive change process whenever that's needed.
And Thomas, I think that just to follow up there, the question was, does the approval and kind of implementation of the integral education vision kind of have to be kind of implemented like before the site visit in May?
No, but it's helpful if key parts of it are, especially around that standard or CFR 4.4, which is basically about the scholarship of teaching and learning and implementing that to improve your programs. So having some structure around improving our programs is a good thing. Joe, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, well, I think that it's really good what Federico was raising. You know, that's exactly a type of question if the team does want to speak to the faculty and speak to the students, which I'm presuming they will, would be like, what are the issues on the campus right now? And that's a very much a legitimate issue. Do we do this? Do we expand it? And so the answer will be, well, how is it being processed and what is in place? And as Thomas is pointing out, there are steps and what steps it will be in. And so I think it's a very live topic and a very good topic for the institution to talk about how it grows and how it discusses and how it involves students and faculty and administrators in its decision-making process. And the CIHS is very committed to shared governance. And I think that would be a very game topic for if I were on the team, it's something that I would ask and see that this is in a state of process.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing too, Joe, is like in terms of process is having it be clear that first of all there is a process for us like developing and expanding programs, and that the institution is following that process as new ideas come to the table, such as this. That's really, I think, what the accrediting or what the team wants to see, is that process is being followed, that there are processes and those processes are being followed. Not necessarily that there's a final polished finished product, but that there's processes and they're being followed.
Exactly, Nick. And also the team doesn't expect that everybody believes in A or B. There's going to be differences of opinion, and it's fine if there are differences of opinion when the team is here. Some may be for something, some may be against something. That's fine, as long as, like you say, it's in play and there is a process that is being followed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great questions.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes. We're scheduled till 11:30. So, Bill, I see your hand raised again. Is that?
Yeah, just
Okay.
very briefly.
Yeah,
I wanted to thank Thomas and Joseph for all the work that they've done to make the WASC accreditation happen. And I hope my question wasn't perceived as being negative in any way. I just didn't know if like the 3 visitations were like, here's the opportunity. And I didn't know, how long the door would be open for implementing further recommendations. So that was the intent of my question. So it was, I hope it was taken properly.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thanks, Bill.
Yes.
And when CIHS was granted candidacy status in 2018, there was a time period. CIHS was granted candidacy for a number of years. I don't remember what it was, for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, something like that. So basically, that timeline is there. It's in the SAV1 Commission action letter. I think it was at least 5 years. So 2018 plus 5 years would be to 2023. And so in that time period, you can have as many site visits as you want. Hopefully, the fewer, the better. So, but that's how it works.
And that's a great question, Bill. And I think it's one that any student, should have actually. Like, okay, so what's the plan if this doesn't go the way that we want it to go, or kind of, what's the process there? I do think that that there is a sense of confidence. There has been a tremendous amount of work that has been done over the past year. It's been highly focused. It's but of course, we don't know for sure. And yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say one thing that I remember after the last site visit, we were all sitting in the room and we had been so hopeful, but now we're fully confident that even if it doesn't happen, it would be a tweak, because the students, the administration, and the faculty are seemingly all on the same page. We understand where we are, and we know what we would have to minimally tweak with another visit. So it won't be the letdown or the disappointed. Of course, we might be disappointed, but it would be so clear that it was so minimal that I can't even see that. So that's a very different place to be than the last visit. Over.
That's a great comment, Julie. Yeah, basically now CIHS knows why it should be accredited, and we know exactly how we're addressing all those CFRs and all the standards, and it's up to the WASC team to see that, and up to CIHS to present it, let the WASC team know all that we're doing and how we are meeting all those CFRs.
One of the things too that maybe the students would be, and faculty too, who's not necessarily kind of so deeply involved in the process, would also like to know too, is just about that organization of what we have is also a part of the process too, so that what the institution has done to address the CFRs and how it's collected the evidence and how it's put it together for this for the team to review, that's really important, so that it can be efficient and they can see what we have, they can see the evidence, they can kind of get a sense that there really is a nice organization. And that is another aspect that we've taken great pains to accomplish. Dr. Pilko is really a kind of has been driving the organization process of kind of, everybody has contributed to the material, but Dr. Pilko is really just, absolutely magnificent and highly skilled at kind of putting things together and making them look great. And so I think that's another kind of area of pride and confidence that we have, that like not only are all the CFRs and all those specific criteria for review kind of answered in a substantial, meaningful, and relevant way, but that the way that we're presenting that is also readable and efficient and well done. So, yeah.
It looks nice.
Yes, it really does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and questions are great. Anybody else? More questions?
I'll just brief comment. Just thankful for all the work that everybody's put in to make this happen. It's apparent to me as a student just how hard everybody's working. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for your leadership as Student Advisory Senate President Emeritus.
All right, everyone. Well, I get the feeling that that's it as far as questions and comments go. We really do appreciate everyone's participation and coming on. Thomas, I don't know if you have any final remarks.
Well, thanks, everybody. Keep May 6th on your calendars, and stay tuned for, I'll be sending out messages about the schedule and updates. Thanks for bearing with us until this this meeting. I was pretty heavily focused on getting that report and actually getting all the systems in place that CIHS needed to get in place. And I wasn't sending out a lot of community messages. So thank you for attending this one and this community meeting about accreditation, and stay the course.
Okay. All right. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend.